In the annals of history, there exist rare individuals whose intellect fundamentally alters humanity's understanding of the cosmos. In our era, Albert Einstein stands as such a figure, a reserved, inquisitive youth who would later redefine the very laws of reality. Yet, before he became an icon of genius, before his name became synonymous with brilliance, he was simply a child captivated by wonder. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in Ulm, a modest German city within the Kingdom of Württemberg. His origins were neither privileged nor wealthy. His father, Hermann Einstein, was a humble engineer, while his mother, Pauline Koch, a pianist, filled their home with the melodies of music. Upon Albert's birth, his head was noticeably larger than average, a concern for his parents. Although the family doctor reassured them that it was of no consequence, the image lingered, a child who appeared different from the start. From his earliest years, young Albert seemed out of sync with the world around him. He spoke deliberately, so much so that his parents worried he might never speak at all. His teachers labeled him lazy, daydreaming, and even mentally slow. However, Albert's mind was far from sluggish. It simply operated on a different plane. He didn't grasp memorization easily, nor did he blindly follow instructions. His true desire was comprehension, a deep understanding of why. As a child, a simple compass gifted by his father sparked endless fascination. He would gaze for hours at the floating needle, mesmerized. Regardless of how he turned it, the needle invariably pointed north. Why? He'd repeatedly ask. What unseen force guided its direction? That compass, he later reflected, served as the initial spark that ignited his exploration into the mysteries of physics. At age 10, he discovered Euclidean geometry, igniting a passion for mathematics. The clarity of its logic, the precision of its lines, and the ability to prove truth captivated him. It was a world that offered certainty amidst prevailing uncertainties. He once remarked, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious." That sense of mystery, that relentless pursuit of understanding, became the driving force of his life. However, young Einstein was no model student. The school in Munich enforced strict discipline, stifling creativity. "You'll never amount to anything," a teacher once coldly told him. In 1894, his father's business faltered, prompting the Einstein family to relocate to Italy. Albert, then 15, remained behind to complete his schooling, but soon abandoned it as well. He found the rigid educational system unbearable. He wandered through Italy for a time, engaging in self-study, pondering light, space, and the enigmatic language of the universe. At 16, he penned his first essay on the nature of light, exploring what would occur if a person could travel alongside a beam of light. That seemingly simple question would intrigue him throughout his life. Despite being rejected by several universities, he persevered. Eventually, in 1896, he gained admission to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. There, surrounded by kindred spirits, Einstein found his niche. He immersed himself in physics and mathematics, but often found lectures tedious. Instead, he devoted hours to solitary contemplation, working through ideas in his notebooks, explored what he termed thought experiments, mental voyages to the very fabric of reality. One of his professors, irritated by his independent spirit, once remarked, "You're clever, Einstein, but you'll never get a job in academia." But Albert wasn't driven by career aspirations or seeking approval. His quest was for truth. In Zurich, he encountered Mileva Maric, a fellow physics student from Serbia. Intelligent, earnest, and sharing his passion for science, they debated theories, solved equations collaboratively, and fell in love. Few recognized at the time the significant role Mileva would play in his early scientific endeavors, though history would often overlook her contributions. After graduating in 1900, Einstein hoped to secure a university position, but positions were scarce. For 2 years, he struggled, offering private lessons, taking on odd jobs, and nearly succumbing to despair. Then, in 1902, a friend helped him obtain a modest role as a technical assistant at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. It wasn't a prestigious position, yet it would become the ideal environment for his fertile imagination. Reviewing patents for electrical devices, Einstein spent his days analyzing how things functioned. and his nights contemplating how the universe itself might operate. Little did anyone suspect that within that unassuming office, a young man at 26 would soon revolutionize science forever. Einstein once stated, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world." As the century turned, his imagination was beginning to stir, and the universe was poised for transformation. The small office in Bern, Switzerland, was quiet save for the soft ticking of a clock. It was here, amidst stacks of patent applications, that Albert Einstein quietly redefined the world. He was 26 years old, barely earning enough to provide for his wife, Maliva, and their son, Hans Albert. His desk was unremarkable, his title insignificant. Technical assistant, third class. Yet within that humble space, his mind soared far beyond the confines of the patent office, delving into the very essence of reality. Einstein later quipped that the monotony of the job afforded him plenty of time to think. And think he did about motion, light, energy, and the very nature of time. The year 1905 would later be celebrated as Annus Mirabilis, the miracle year. In a mere 12 months, Einstein published 4 scientific papers that shattered centuries of established physics. Each one, in isolation, could have warranted a Nobel Prize. Collectively, they reshaped our understanding of the universe. The first paper, published in March 1905, explored the fundamental nature of light itself. Einstein proposed that light was not merely a continuous wave, as universally accepted, but also existed as discrete packets of energy called quanta, what we now know as photons. It was a radical concept. Even his future mentor, Max Planck, who initially proposed the idea of quanta, was astounded by the extent to which Einstein developed it. Einstein's explanation of the photoelectric effect, how light can dislodge electrons from metal, would later earn him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. Yet at the time, it garnered scant attention. He wasn't a professor. He had no laboratory. He had only a pen and notebook, and the audacity to believe that imagination could unlock the secrets of the cosmos. His second paper, published in May, addressed Brownian motion, the seemingly random movement of particles suspended in a fluid. To most scientists, it was a curious phenomenon. To Einstein, it was evidence of something profound, the reality of atoms. By mathematically explaining how invisible particles cause this erratic motion, Einstein provided the world with compelling evidence for the atomic theory, a concept that had been debated for centuries. Without that paper, the atomic world might have remained a theory for much longer. Then came June 1905, ushering in the paper that would forever alter our perception of time. On the electrodynamics of moving bodies, Einstein introduced his special theory of relativity. He posited a groundbreaking idea. The laws of physics remain consistent for all observers in uniform motion, and the speed of light is constant for all observers. This simple premise yielded astounding implications. It meant that time and space weren't absolute. They could stretch and compress depending on motion. Time, he realized, wasn't a universal rhythm beating uniformly for everyone. It could slow down or speed up depending on one's velocity. Space, too, could warp. Distances could shrink, clocks could disagree, yet the laws of nature would remain consistent. Reality, it turned out, was far more peculiar than anyone had conceived. But Einstein wasn't finished. Just months later, he published a fourth paper, a brief note that contained one of the most iconic equations in human history. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. It implied that mass and energy were interchangeable, two forms of the same fundamental entity. A small amount of matter could unleash an immense quantity of energy. The equation that began as an unassuming line in an obscure paper would one day power stars and devastate cities. Yet in 1905, Einstein's name held little significance. His papers were published in a lesser-known journal. He continued to report to work each morning, clocking in at the patent office, reviewing electrical inventions, and returning home to care for his son. But slowly, word began to spread. Physicists across Europe began whispering about a clerk in Bern who had overturned Newton's universe. One scientist wrote, "I do not know this man, but I am convinced he has seen further than all of us." Einstein himself found the sudden attention amusing. He remained modest, even playful. He once remarked, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." By the close of 1905, physics would never be the same. The universe, once perceived as a fixed mechanism, was now understood as a dynamic fabric of motion and energy. Time could bend, space could twist, light behaved as both wave and particle. And at the heart of it all stood one man, not a professor, not a wealthy scientist, but a dreamer with unruly hair and a contemplative soul, who dared to pose a simple question. What if we look at the universe differently? That year, the clerk became a legend. By 1906, the unassuming clerk at the Berne Patent Office was no longer anonymous. The scientific community had started to recognize the man who had reshaped their understanding of light, time, and matter. Einstein was offered a position at the University of Zurich as a lecturer. It was modest, but it represented a monumental shift. From a lowly patent clerk to an acknowledged academic, he threw himself into teaching with the same inquisitiveness he had as a child. Einstein's lectures weren't about reciting formulas or memorizing texts. He wanted students to grasp the essence of the universe. He challenged them to question assumptions, to imagine beyond the known, and to perceive reality as a dynamic, living system. In 1907, he published a paper extending his theory of special relativity. He began pondering gravity, not as a force transmitted through space, but as a curvature of space and time itself. This was the nascent seed of what would later evolve into the general theory of relativity. Meanwhile, his personal life grew more complex. His marriage to Mileva Merrick was strained by long hours of work, relentless ambition, and the challenges of raising two sons. Yet through the trials, Mileva remained an intellectual partner in the background, discussing equations, debating concepts, and providing emotional support. Einstein's brilliance was becoming undeniable. In 1909, he was invited to the University of Zurich as an associate professor. For the first time, he had the freedom to dedicate himself entirely to research. His fame began to spread beyond Switzerland. Letters from curious physicists arrived daily, questioning his papers, proposing collaborations, and offering positions at prestigious institutions. In 1911, Einstein moved to the German-speaking University of Prague as a full professor. There, he was surrounded by a stimulating intellectual environment. He further explored the consequences of relativity, predicting that massive objects could bend light, a revolutionary idea that many dismissed as speculative. He also experienced the loneliness of genius. Colleagues sometimes viewed him as eccentric, even arrogant. Students admired him for his clarity and imagination, but the academic world was slow to embrace someone who challenged centuries of Newtonian authority. Einstein's correspondence during these years reveals a man torn between pure scientific curiosity and the worldly demands of career and recognition. He would write to friends, "I want to know the mind of God. All else is trivial." By 1914, he returned to Germany, accepting a position at the Prussian Academy of Sciences in Berlin. He relinquished teaching for full-time research, supported by a modest stipend, but free to pursue his ideas. It was in Berlin that he formulated complete equations of general relativity, a theory that took him 8 years of relentless thought. Einstein envisioned a universe where space and time were interwoven, where massive objects like stars and planets warped the very fabric of the cosmos. In November 1915, he presented the final version of general relativity to the Prussian Academy. It was a monumental achievement, one that would forever transform physics. The theory predicted, among other things, that light from distant stars would bend around the sun. Many were skeptical, but Einstein remained calm, confident in the elegance and logic of his equations. During World War I, communication with scientists in other countries was difficult. Yet even in a world divided by conflict, Einstein's ideas transcended borders. His papers circulated discreetly in Europe, influencing young physicists who would later form the next generation of scientific leaders. Meanwhile, his public profile began to rise. Newspapers reported on the man who had rewritten time and space, though few understood the science behind the headlines. Einstein, always modest, often chuckled at the attention. He preferred thought experiments over interviews, equations over applause. By 1919, the world finally took notice. During a total solar eclipse, British astronomers led by Arthur Eddington confirmed Einstein's prediction. Light from stars was indeed bent by the sun's gravity. The headlines were sensational. Revolution in science. Newton overturned. Einstein, once a quiet clerk, had become an international celebrity, the very embodiment of modern science. And yet, despite his fame, he remained the same man who had marveled at a compass as a boy, captivated by unseen forces. He continued to write, to dream, and to imagine worlds far beyond what most could fathom. It was evident. The universe had changed, and the man who changed it was just getting started. By the early 1920s, Albert Einstein was more than just a name in scientific journals. He was a global icon, an exemplar of intellectual courage, and a man whose ideas had redefined the universe. In 1921, Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for relativity, which remained controversial at the time, but for his explanation of the photoelectric effect. It was a recognition of the practical implications of his work, the initial indication that his theories would revolutionize technology and society. Einstein traveled extensively to receive the prize, touring Europe and the United States. Crowds gathered wherever he went, journalists clamored for interviews, and scientists eagerly awaited his every word. Yet, despite the fame, Einstein remained remarkably humble. He often stated that his greatest pleasure was thinking, imagining, and questioning the world, not the public's applause. The 1920s were also years of political awakening for Einstein. He spoke out for peace, democracy, and civil rights, opposing nationalism and militarism in post-World War I Europe. He became a member of the League of Nations International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation, promoting international scientific exchange and human understanding. Einstein's fame presented challenges. He received countless letters from students, scientists, and even political figures seeking advice. Yet he persevered in prioritizing ideas over accolades, often retreating to his study to delve into the mysteries of the universe. Amid the public and political life, his personal life was complex. His marriage to Mileva ended in divorce in 1919. That same year, he married his cousin, Elsa Einstein, who provided stability and support as he navigated his increasing fame. Elsa managed the practicalities of life, allowing Einstein to focus solely on his scientific and philosophical pursuits. He continued to travel, lecture, and write extensively, producing works not only in physics but also in philosophy, education, and social issues. By the 1930s, the political climate in Germany grew increasingly perilous. The rise of the Nazi regime threatened intellectual freedom and endangered scientists of Jewish heritage. Einstein, of Jewish descent, recognized the danger. In 1933, while visiting the United States, he decided not to return to Germany. He accepted a position at Princeton University's Institute for Advanced Study, beginning a new chapter in America. The move marked a profound transition from European celebrity to American refugee and intellectual leader. In Princeton, he worked among brilliant minds, continuing his explorations of quantum theory, unified field theory, and the nature of the cosmos. Though his fame preceded him, Einstein preferred the quiet of thought experiments, walks by the lake, and correspondence with friends and colleagues. During this period, Einstein also became a public voice against oppression and war. He spoke against fascism, supported Jewish refugees, and even corresponded with political leaders urging peace. He famously warned the United States about the potential for Nazi Germany to develop atomic weapons. Though he personally remained committed to pacifism, Einstein's American years were a blend of scientific achievement and moral advocacy. He wrote papers, gave lectures, and became a symbol of reason and conscience in turbulent times. Yet, he never lost the playful curiosity that had defined his youth. He played the violin, enjoyed sailing, and often reflected on the beauty of the universe in simple, poetic terms. By 1939, Einstein had been in the United States for 6 years. He had escaped the dangers of Europe. Yet the world was once again on the brink of war. He knew that his voice and reputation could influence minds, and he embraced the responsibility, urging leaders to consider the ethical consequences of science. At the same time, he continued to write, think, and inspire a new generation of physicists. From his small office at Princeton, he corresponded with colleagues worldwide, nurturing a global scientific community. Einstein's life during these years exemplified a delicate balance, the mind reaching for the stars and a heart engaged in humanity's struggles. He was both a scientist and a citizen of the world, understanding that knowledge and conscience must go hand in hand. As the 1930s drew to a close, Einstein had already secured his legacy as one of the greatest minds in history. Yet, he remained humble, playful, and ever curious, a man whose love for mysteries of the universe never waned. By the early 1940s, the world had plunged into the chaos of World War II. Albert Einstein, now residing in the United States, was acutely aware of the power and peril of modern science. Although he had departed Germany years prior, he could not ignore the plight of his fellow countrymen, nor the surge of totalitarian regimes. Einstein became a champion of reason and humanity, advocating for civil rights, freedom, and the ethical application of scientific discovery. During this period, he famously signed the 1939 letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, cautioning about the potential development of nuclear weapons by Nazi Germany. While he did not directly participate in the Manhattan Project, the letter was instrumental in initiating American research into atomic energy, a moral quandary that Einstein would contemplate throughout his life. At Princeton, Einstein continued his research with unwavering curiosity. He dedicated himself to unified field theory, endeavoring to unify gravity and electromagnetism within a single framework. Though he never fully realized this goal, his efforts exemplified his lifelong pursuit of profound understanding, a yearning to unveil the hidden symmetries of nature. Einstein's daily life consisted of a blend of contemplation, teaching, and public engagement. He sustained correspondence with leading scientists worldwide, offering guidance, debating emerging theories, and mentoring the next generation of physicists. Even in his later years, he would jot down equations on scraps of paper, inspired by ideas that were still taking shape. He remained a steadfast advocate for peace and justice, speaking out against war, fascism, and oppression wherever he could. He supported initiatives to aid Jewish refugees, campaigned for civil rights in the United States, and utilized his fame to inspire ethical responsibility in science. Einstein's personal life was quieter but fulfilling. His wife, Elsa, passed away in 1936, leaving him with both freedom and solitude. He continued to cherish music, especially playing the violin, and sailing, often reflecting on the beauty and harmony of the universe. Despite his global renown, he remained humble, playful, and deeply human, often laughing at himself and the peculiarities of life. The 1940s and early 1950s also mark a period of immense recognition. Einstein received countless awards, honorary degrees, and invitations to speak across the globe. Yet he never permitted fame to detract from the questions that had propelled him since his youth. How does the universe function? What is the essence of reality? He engaged in correspondence with world leaders, intellectuals, and ordinary individuals, always emphasizing the importance of education, curiosity, and moral responsibility. Einstein's writings from this era also reveal a man contemplating mortality and legacy. He reflected on the fleeting nature of life and the enduring power of ideas. A person experiences life as a fleeting shadow, but what we discover, imagine, and create endures beyond us. In 1955, Albert Einstein passed away peacefully in Princeton, New Jersey. He bequeathed not only a wealth of scientific knowledge, but also a philosophy of life, a message that reason, curiosity, and compassion must coexist. His work continues to shape physics, from the bending of light to the understanding of energy and beyond. Generations of scientists have expanded upon his theories, probing the very fabric of space, time, and matter. But perhaps Einstein's most significant legacy is the example of a life devoted to pursuit of truth, tempered by humility, moral courage, and wonder. He taught the world that imagination is as vital as knowledge, and that curiosity can spark revolutions in understanding. From a boy who marveled at a compass in a small village in Germany, to the man whose ideas redefined humanity's view of the universe, Albert Einstein's journey was truly extraordinary. He remains an emblem of intellectual freedom, moral responsibility, and a relentless quest to comprehend the cosmos. Einstein's life serves as a reminder that knowledge without imagination is limited, but knowledge coupled with curiosity and conscience can transform the world. Even decades after his death, his spirit endures in classrooms, laboratories, and the hearts of dreamers who dare to question reality. Ultimately, Albert Einstein was not merely a scientist. He was a testament to the power of the human mind and spirit, demonstrating that the curiosity, courage, and imagination of a single individual can alter the world forever.